Hi everyone, my name is Wana and you are watching Culture Diaries. Now our guest today on the show is considered one of the top editors in the country. His name is Chuka Ejorh. Welcome, Chuka.
Thank you
Did
for
I
having
did I freak you out by the overexcitement?
Yes, but it's all right. It's all right. I will get into it.
You get I can see that.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Editing. I mean, I feel like it is one of the most underrated and misrepresented processes in the story, in that whole storytelling process. What are some of the, would I say, strangest or the weirdest requests or assertions that you get when you say you're an editor? How do people sort of look at you?
Yeah. Well, I guess they think, oh yeah, you just put these things together, right? While the people have done all the good work, and then you just put it together. It's normal, I guess. You get that all the time, but editing, yeah, is quite a process. There are many aspects to it that I guess when then put together, might not seem like much, but then when actually done in their bits are quite intense. Quite intense.
Now there is this, I think it's Walter Murch's rule of six, where he talks about the things to consider when editing,
Yes.
which is there's
Emotion,
emotions, story, rhythm, eyes, and so many things like that.
Yes.
What are the things that you consider when you're trying to piece a story together?
The major thing I consider, I guess, I would say is what feels right. So I mean, when I'm trying to put something together, the first thing is, does it feel right? And then just putting it all together, then watching it. Then if something doesn't feel right, then we know we change it. But, it's just more about the feeling, I guess. Because in the end, the editor is the first viewer. The director, you're all seeing it from, behind the camera, you're shooting, you're not really thinking about much. But the editor, you're seeing it first on the screen. So the editor is, I guess, the representative of the viewer.
So for you sound like a very sort of instinctive editor.
I would say, well, maybe not so much. I mean, I sound like an instinctive, but I guess I have many rules, and maybe it might be difficult for some people to work with that. But
Share some of these rules with us, please.
No, there's a temptation to just, okay, there's this thing that's been shot, let me just start editing it. But then there are many processes that I would like to go through, like having to, watch the whole thing, like log the whole thing, like make, small storyboards of the whole thing, and then forming the story, firstly on the script, and then in your head, and then editing. But yeah, it's quite a process, but then, there can be the temptation for many not to go through that process. So I'm not so instinctive, because, yeah, many times I already have a plan.
Yeah.
And then I then go with what feels right. At least I know that plan is the basis of my cutting, and then just go from there.
So I guess I was wrong. I think you're definitely more methodical than you are
I am quite
instinctive.
Yes.
I love what you talk about, what you say about, not just watching all the footage, but also storyboarding. And what does that process, what does it do for you towards the final cut, or when you're finally piecing it together?
Okay, well, with editing, it's almost like putting a puzzle together. So many times there can be lots of shots, and as a person you can be overwhelmed, but when, you have a plan, you can then, stick to it, and then things can change, but at least you have a plan. So what the storyboarding does is, I've seen all these shots. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan, but a plan, because then, you already have, it's almost like sharpening your knife to cut the tree. Rather than just hitting the tree, continuously, you can just sharpen your knife and cut the tree once. Basically just like that.
Okay.
So it's more of just making a plan in the head and then going with it, I guess.
I always see the editors work as almost like the drummers in the band, where they have, if the drum beat is off key or just off points, the whole band is a mess. The sound is a mess. But a lot of people don't even know don't know who the drummers in bands are half the time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the same way.
Well, editing actually, some people consider the invisible art, which is when you practice editing, and you do it perfectly, you're actually not meant to be noticed, because the viewer is meant to be so immersed in it that they don't realize it's been edited. They just think this is what is happening, this is life. So I guess it is just part of the job, really. You know, like you kind of like have to just accept that you're not going to be known, you're not going to be recognized, you're not going to be, well, not recognized. I mean, some
Yeah.
people recognize, but you know, you're not going to be acknowledged by the viewer. Because, well, you're not supposed to be acknowledged, you're supposed to be forgotten by the viewer. And so I guess it's just
I
something
suppose
that,
that's when you've done your job well, when it's so
yes,
seamless that they don't even
they don't
bother
realize that you
asking
have editing.
who
Yeah, yeah. They,
who the editor
yeah.
is.
But then when, you know, you have so many, I mean, I'm not against effects or anything, but when you have so many, you know, like
Yeah.
effects and flashes and all that, and then, oh, wow, such great editing. But I mean, sometimes it's maybe not great editing. It's just, you know, some sort of like, you know, digression.
Be
But,
honest. Be
you
honest.
know,
Feel free to be honest.
it's, yeah, different styles, you know, different styles.
Who are the, you know, I mean, I'm sure you've worked on so much material. Who are some of like the, in terms of like the directors that you've worked with, who you've, you know, you've gotten the material and you're like, you know, you just feel in heaven about? Like, have you ever had experience that where you're not pulling your hair out and how am I going to do this or salvage this?
Yes, okay, so there are two directors that I have enjoyed working with. The first one, I guess I would say, well, in my opinion, he's like the best, well, maybe biggest also, TV director and live show director in Africa, Gavin Ratton. And I worked with him for quite a number of years. And yeah, we got each other.
What projects were you guys working on?
Geez, so many things. Face of Africa, South African Idols, Miss South Africa, so many, so many stuff. So yeah, and he can be quite intense and quite specific about what he wants. And yeah, you know, one of those directors that are snobs. They just don't want to work with anybody else, you know, but someone. And it took me a while to, you know, also understand him. But then I learned so much from him, you know, about storytelling, characterization, you know, about just seeing the end from the beginning, you know, and just learning to just piece things together. Yeah, I learned a lot from Gavin. And then the Nigerian director I've worked with, Tolu Ajayi, and that was on The Encounter. It was refreshing, you know, because you don't really get that, you know, many times from, especially Nigerian directors. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Nigerian directors. It's just, you know, I imagine that, you know, the pressure, you know, with all of the issues, you know, you just are tempted to skip many processes and just get to the shooting. But what Tolu did was, you know, he made sure that he went through all those processes, you know, that I really like, you know, and you kind of make the plan before you actually execute. You know, so that way, when you're executing, you know, it's not always going to go with your plan, but at least you have that basis. I always just go back to that, having a plan and having a basis and then going from it. So Tolu, yeah, it was great working with him on The Encounter.
So he definitely wasn't shortchanging anything. Everything he went, you know, he didn't skip any process.
I didn't feel that way at all.
But what was special about the material when you got it that you said, you know, this, just piecing this together was a joy for you? What was special about the material?
The fact that when you see footage, you can already tell, you know, if and how much work has gone into it. You know, from the acting, from the camera movement, from the angles, you know, from the plan, from the storyboard that the director already has, and you see the footage. You know, when you just see, you just know. Well, I just know, and I could just tell that he put a lot into every single thing that was shown on the screen, which is really what film is about. You know, it has to be intentional, not, you know, by chance. You know, so that was why The Encounter. I mean, of course, there were challenges. I mean, I remember there was this big challenge I had, and I was, you know, maybe like really swearing in my office as I was cutting it. But, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it was because I was so into it, you know, and it all worked out fine in the, I think, you know.
No, it was a beautiful film. And in fact, that was the first question I asked when I watched it. I was like, who edited this film?
When you're doing good editing, you don't really try to create something new. You just, it's already there. It's just you just guiding it to it fulfilling its potential, I guess.
But talking to you, you also, I mean, you also direct as well.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
A little
of
bit.
course, every now and then.
Every
Yes.
now and again. But I'm wondering how sort of yours, because you talk about, you know, characterization, the acting, the performance, the camera movements, and I'm wondering how your knowledge of that helps to influence, you know, cutting a film together. Because I have a I mean, I assume that somebody who doesn't have as much knowledge on that will cut a lot differently. We know wouldn't know how to save a performance because there's sometimes and an editor also saves certain performances. They can make an actor look really good, you know, or they can just make you look terrible. So I wonder how your knowledge of all those compartments just help you influence the way.
I mean, yes, they certainly do, and it is. I think that it is, you know, like the job of whoever in any craft, you know, to learn about other aspects, because yeah, you might not, you know, I may not have to hold a camera, but you know, I should learn, you know, how the camera works, what the DOP, you know, should do, you know, the lighting design, you know, and all of that, you know, because that then helps me. My knowledge, expanding your knowledge, helps to, you know, I guess make whatever it is you're doing better, because there will always be, you know, a need for that at some point. So certainly, I mean, I had to buy books on light, you know, on painting with light. That was the book I bought. On DOP, you know, for sound, you know, I mean, all of that I probably shouldn't have business, you know, doing, but I just want to know about them because in the end, we work together. You know, so me having a basic knowledge of what they do helps me know kind of like, oh, this person might have these challenges because I already know what they could have been doing. You know, so it helps. It helps, certainly. So, I mean, it's kind of like it's a responsibility of anyone in any craft to try and learn, you know, other aspects of the craft, certainly.
You're also, I mean, we live in Nigeria, which means we have to do commercial work because we need to eat and pay the bills.
Yes.
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 And I know that you do a lot of commercial work as well.
A lot.
And I'm wondering how you're able to sort of balance your commercial eye and your sort of artistic and creative eye, because there's some commercial work where they're like, please, I'm not interested in all your stylistic, you know, all this your stylistic editing and all these things. It's like, please just lay the footage, 1, 2, 3, you know. And I can imagine for a creative person that can be very stifling and exhausting as well, and frustrating. So, I mean, how are you able to sort of balance it out without sort of losing yourself?
Yeah, I would say by just trying to do my own things, you know. Everyone, you know, everyone always has to sell out, you know. I mean, it's just life. You know, you always just have to sell, you know. So, yeah, that happens, you know, by trying to do my own things that I'm passionate about. You know, I mean, I like to take photographs. I like to do film screenings, you know, and to show and watch, you know, like films that I like that are not necessarily commercial films, but films that I like. And somehow, I have to admit also, somehow in every commercial work that I do, I always still just try to have my influence somehow and not just, because in the end, you know, it's your reputation. So I'm not just going to say, oh, because you want it as simple, I'm going to try and add something to it. So maybe that helps me to an extent, you know.
And we're talking about the fact that, you know, you do other things that you enjoy to take your mind away from, you know, the hustle of you know, money jobs. Yeah. And Film Sundays is one of those things. Yes. So tell me about how Film Sundays came about and what's been the reaction. You've been doing it for over a year now.
Yeah, like 2 years now.
2 years, wow.
Yes, yes.
And just the reaction and the audience, whether it's growing. I want to know a bit more about that.
Okay. So I mean, Film Sundays, it was just basically born out of the fact that, first of all, we didn't, at that point anyway, didn't have that many cinemas. And the cinemas that we had and we have, you know, are only inclined to show certain types of films.
Blockbuster.
Exactly. You know, but the thing is, there are so many other kinds of films that, you know, have much deeper stories, much more, better stories that, you know, regular humans can relate to and, you know, can, I don't know, be influenced by. You know, so it was just basically born out of that just to try and give an option, you know, because there are so many films. You know, Outhouse Cinema is there, you know, and then there are so many good documentaries that, you know, like address real life issues and nice, good issues. So it was just born out of that and just trying to show films from all over the world to whoever is interested in, you know, seeing it for free and, you know, try and get people there also by giving them free popcorn. You know, so it's been going well, and I mean, we've had, you know, quite, you know, a good turnout over the 2 years. And yeah, well, I do it with my wife Olamide. Okay. I mean, and it's been going very well. The response has been very good. We, in fact, nowadays, obviously because we don't have the budget. It's free, and we even, get the popcorn and all that. And we get, the free space from Stranger and all that. And now what we even do is we do Skype Q&As with the directors. Like, so we have directors from India, Switzerland, Egypt, the UK, from wherever, Denmark, and they all just, Skype in, we video Skype them, and then they speak with our, audience, having questions for them after the film, which is very good, because I imagine that a number of the people there in our audience would not have had the chance to, see that kind of film because we're just so one-dimensional what we're getting from our cinemas, just because they need to make money, I guess. So yeah, that's what we do, and that's the response we'll be getting.
So futuristically, like, is Film Sunday going to become like a festival or something? Or do you see it like becoming a mini art house cinema on its own, like a distribution space?
Both. The plan and the hope for Film Sundays is to then grow it into like an outhouse club, cinema club, where people can also come, like have a drink, like just talk, and just talk about film, talk about, things, art. And then, every now and then, have mini festivals, and just host good films, good, real films. I'm not saying blockbuster films, but,
When it comes to, your skill as an editor, and you're definitely, whenever people are calling names of editors in Nigeria, your name comes in like top 5 as well.
Yeah, because we're not that many.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. They're not that many. Why? So what is it? Everybody seems to be more drawn towards either being a performer or being a director. So what is it about editing that people don't find interesting? Or is there maybe there's not as much glamour attached to that role? Or do you think that people just don't understand the power of the editor and the value of the editor in that storytelling process?
I think it's a mix of all these things that you have said. I think, yes, like there isn't much glamour attached to it because, I mean, when you have a film premiere, you have, the producer and the directors, and the actors are the ones, that are there, they made this film. And you hardly really hear about the editor. So I imagine that, some people might feel that, well, it's not really a very attractive profession. So that's that. And then, I mean, I think, it's also just, I mean, people don't realize the power of editing. Okay, there was a point, I'll just give a short story, but there was a point I was editing. I think maybe it was like a year into editing. And I had this epiphany, and I thought, wow, I have so much power. I can actually just control the minds of people. That was what I thought. But then it is actually true because when you're editing, you can manipulate, the thought processes and emotional processes of everyone, people watching it. So there's so much power in it, but then people maybe don't realize it. But it's also because maybe some people haven't really tried to explore the depths of editing. There's the surface editing, which is just piecing things together. But then there's more to it that when you realize it, you know that, yeah, that is real power. I'm not, crazy about power, no.
I was going to say you're like the juju man. You're like the voodoo guy's like, mind control, let's see. Okay, you guys are going to cry here, and then you're going to...
Yeah, I mean, so much power. And, I mean, it's just, I love it, because you're just doing it and you're piecing something together and it comes together as a whole and it's just good, and people feel what you want them to feel at a certain time. Well, I mean, not because you just want them to feel it, but because they should feel it, so yeah, but it's I love it. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy it. American Beauty.
Oh. I was going to say, it has the same vibe of Tree of Life.
It does.
Yes.
It does. Yes. Okay. Let me just say, Walter Murch, he's an editor.
Yes. Apocalypse Now and
yes.
a few more others.
Cold Mountain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to embarrass myself, but is an onion a fruit?
No, it's a vegetable.
Yeah, sorry.
Even some people probably just eat it like it's an apple, though.
Yeah, you know what?
I think that's
I will call it a fruit.
Do you do that?
No, I don't.
I was going to say.
I had this very great poetic, thing about being an onion.
Go ahead, please. Express yourself.
Yeah, I guess I would be an onion, just so many levels,
appeal.
Yeah, so much depth. Simple.
Oh, that's interesting.
Being a pilot. The Believer, John Legend, and Common. None.
Don't do that.
I'm 29. I mean, like, whatever it is I haven't done, I can do in the future. I have no regrets.
You're very simple and positive. I like that.
Be patient. Yes, it can, because it's very influential. It's what the people see and feel, together. I mean, I guess, things like, I'm not against politics, but things like politics, the people hear, and that's it. But, like with art, I think, there's the seeing, hearing, or whatever else, but then the feeling also. And people make more changes and are more influenced by what they feel. That my work is like classical music.
Wow. That's an awesome compliment. And we've come to the end.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Wana.
coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chuka, for coming on Culture Diaries today. Don't forget you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up as well. You find out all the information you need to know regarding social media platforms and websites at the bottom of the screen. Big shout out to Sauce Productions for giving us the beautiful studio. And don't forget, we'll see you next time.